So today we're going to make a mount for our Valentine radar detector that's going to fit all of the bikes that we already have bag mounts for the GIVI mount. We're going to eliminate that, and I'm going to show a couple of the things, a couple little pitfalls that you can fall into when you start a project like this. I've run into them already. I'm going to try to show those tips on the video and hope you'll have the same success I have. Now yesterday we spent a good part of the day gathering materials for future projects to finish up this project. One of them is I wanted to replace the GIVI tank bag with a more custom unit, but I want to keep the GIVI tank bag, so I'm not going to cut it up, but I do need to take that ring off the bottom. I did start yesterday cleaning up a piece of aluminum to do it, but I don't know if that's going to play out, because maybe what's going to play out, I have an alternative down at Lowe's that I can pick up that'll be a little bit bigger, but I won't know until I take everything apart today. And it's a wonderful day to do it because it's a wintry mix out there. Snow turning to rain, turning to snow. It's not a day we're going riding. And we had a little taste of spring the last couple days when we were out getting materials. Guys were out on bikes down at the BMW dealer. It looked like somebody was even buying a bike, but hey, we have our own little empire of the sun here to take care of. So it looks like it'll be a good day to do this tank bag, and I'm hoping that I'm going to have the right materials. But if I don't, Lowe's is only a stone's throw away. And we certainly, as I said before, we are not even considering going riding today. One of the little projects, I got material yesterday to try to make some screening, some silver aluminum screening in there, maybe a little accent piece. And I don't know if I do that, then it may be appropriate to do the little screening in the tail. You don't even see it when it's black. Maybe Sylvia would see it, but again, nice. What's nice about all these little modifications, I always like to make a modification to a bike. Good example is the windshield. If I don't like it, 4 screws, it's off, and the other one is on. Same thing with the GIVI tank bag. The tank bag has served us well many years. The other one, the magnetic one, served us well. But now I want to make like what I think will be an upgrade for this. Now by having a smaller thing, I can put the battery in my pocket. That's no problem. That's really the only other critical thing. But the thing I'm trying to do is make this that when we're riding aggressively, you can lean to the bank. The bag is really in your way. It limits where you can move your body weight. And in hard cornering, I want to get my body weight up on that front wheel a lot of times. And I think it's going to be an upgrade. But always the good news, if it isn't, we put the other one back. And that's what evil twinning is all about. And all the bikes are on battery tender, and they are all ready to go. All we need is some weather. Well, it was snowing early this morning. It looks like it's turned to rain. Let's hope it stays rain. So everything's done with the bed and breakfast. We are ready to start. I got my materials. Now again, if you did not see yesterday's video, there's a bigger box available at Lowe's. I started out with this as being my pattern. I took that piece of aluminum. That was something Mark Morgan had donated years ago. I got the screening for the scoops. So I've got all my material here for some evil twin parts, but I haven't made a final decision yet. So I thought this would be a good time to explain what I'm trying to accomplish. This is the original bag, and I bought this when I was trying to set up a way to carry the radar detector with me conveniently. I had a mount plate over the top. It has magnets that held on. Well, what happened after 4 years, the magnets start to wear through on the corners, and it started scratching the paint if you didn't take it off conveniently. And here's the worst thing can happen is, let me show this. This channel is supposed to be to share good information. Is my workbench, I'd have a razor blade down there, and this was what would happen. And then I'd pick it up without looking, and and this happened more than once, that a tool or a razor or something got caught in there. Also, a magnetic chip, a little piece of something magnetic, a little shaving from the drill press or something would get on there, and it'd chew it up. So I became real conscious of it, and I'd wipe it before I'd put it on and everything. And I added, in the back piece here, I added 10 of those high power magnets, and I think I had 4 or 5 in the front, 10 in the back. So this thing went boom, and it really was on. But in the end, it was scratching the paint, and I didn't like that. Now, some people don't care about the paint. And so what happened, this was about a 4 or 5 year thing, very convenient, nothing broke, nothing went bad. but then this became obsolete. So the next phase of the evolution was, and this worked out even better, this is the GIVI bag with the tank mount, and Vlad got me this, and he got me all the extra rings, and by the way, you have to buy an extra ring for every motorcycle. So if you have 7 bikes, you got to buy 7 rings, or 5, or whatever you need. But anyway, and the other thing is this mount, it was so convenient, it works great, but you notice what I did? I put little sponges, little hard rubber sponges on it, because what was happening, I was afraid that this would pick up some dirt or some stuff, and this is really close to the paint. It's only a 1/16 of an inch away, so I didn't want that, depending on the shape of the tank, I didn't want to run into that thing where it was scratching the paint. But anyway, this is a really nice system. It seems like it's bulletproof. Now what I want to do is take this mechanism off of this, put it on my own aluminum plate, which I made yesterday, and of course I'll keep this just the way I have it, so I can just go back if I want to go back. An example, if I wanted to go on a long trip, a weekend trip, I could just 4 bolts, and I've got it, 6, whatever it is, I could put this right back. Always the thing with Evil Twins is not to destroy the part, so you can't put it back if you change your mind. And sometimes you just change your mind because you change your mind, because you're like, you know, it's the way you want to go on a trip, or in some case you want to go to a bike meetup where you don't want to see the bag. Well, you know what I used to do? If you go to a meetup, you take the bag off so people can see what a custom bike you have. But anyway, so I'm going to try to engineer this up today. Don't know if I'm going to change my mind, but all of my projects start off with a picture, and then I change it, and I go for a ride. Oh, that didn't work. It's an evolution. It's an ongoing thing of developing things, and you're in a constant process of trying to make it better. Now, of course, these bags come in all different sizes, and to be honest, this is the smallest one they make, and it's a little bit big for what I need. What I was trying to find originally was a smaller bag, maybe half this size, because all I really need to do the rides that I go on 90% of the time is the radar detector and the screamer. These 2 things are a must. Everything else in here, you know, and I've got a durometer, and I've got batteries for the camera, and Band-Aids because I'm always cutting myself on something. Paper towels for cleaning the screen, tire changing stuff. This is like the clowns getting out of a Volkswagen. Thanks to Michelle, we have cola, and we got adjustable wrenches because you never have the right wrench, and we got Allen wrenches, and this is a bungee cord, and, you know, a key to, I don't know what that's a key to. Extra camera batteries. Fuses that we probably fit every bike except the one that has a blown fuse. A screwdriver for adjusting RD carbs, even though I can't take this on the RD. And this is the whole thing. It's what's in this bucket that matters. Now, what's really funny is what happens as years go by. You start putting stuff in, and it's clowns in a Volkswagen. And all of a sudden there's parts you forgot you have, and there's bolts and screws and zip ties. And to be honest, I don't want to take this stuff with me anymore. You know, the rides I've been taking, the 4-hour rides, what I need to take is this. Now, the other thing I want to take, and I don't want to be ever ride without it if possible, I got my jumper battery, which this conveniently just fits in a pocket, and the wire jumper you need to jump it. So those 2 can fit in a pocket, and I have an adapter there too. And a piece of fuel hose, for when somebody runs out of gas. Even if it's not you, you can help them, they can help you. So here's the bottom line, is we got a waterproof case. So I think you get the picture. I can downsize this. That's the bottom line. Now, if you've never set up a Valentine radar detector, it can be tricky. I don't like working with electricity at all, so for me it's even more tricky. But anyway, I did realize when I set this up, this is all of the stuff you need for the radar detector. And I've got it all marked with little boxes and everything. So it looks to me like this will be a no problem to get that to fit in there. We'll wiggle it around and everything. That looks like that's going to do that. I've got to disconnect the wires, of course, to the screamer and to this and to the charger. And once I take this apart, to be honest, I think this is going to work better than I even thought it would. And I don't need, well, I'm going to see. But again, it's an ongoing thing, and I want to always leave the door open to, if I want to make this bigger, I can go get the bigger box at Lowe's that has the jack in it for $26. So I'm not into the big money here, but I'll have 2 choices in the course of this project. Now, because I'm not comfortable working with electricity like I am with paint or with whatever, everybody has weaknesses and strengths. My weaknesses is electricity. I always have my spare battery, and before I do anything, shut this off, I want to know that I have a good connection. Now, I had to replace this wire at one time, and I thought it was an ordinary phone wire. It isn't. It's a wire you have to get from Valentine. So I want to be real careful. I've got to take this, disconnect it. Okay, so now this is, I can take that unit off. The screamer I can take off. This comes off with Velcro. And now I can work on getting these wires back through. In other words, I want to have all the electronic stuff out of here and out off the bench before I start working on that mount. Now, being honest about it, this is all the electronic. This is the gizmo that goes to the Valentine. And there's a fuse in here, and there's a connector, and there's a connector that goes to the screamer. Now, this, when you get a Valentine, it's pretty intimidating because this is made for a car. And I thought about taking these wires and shortening them, and yeah, but the thing is, every time I do that, then I'm just not comfortable. That's not my area of expertise. So I kind of just leave it, and I shove it up in a corner, and I guess it's good if I ever do want to use this on a car. But in the meantime, the screamer hooks up. We know where that hooks up. Everything is kind of predictable here, but every step of the way, I'll be checking it with my R1 battery. That's the original battery that came with the R1 in '09. It still runs, it's fine. I just have a lithium battery in there. And this, if I can get this all in the box conveniently, wow, that's a giant upgrade. Now, I had this mounted with some 5-minute epoxy. You just heat it with a hairdryer, it gets soft. You can peel it right up like that. So we want to have this mount flat when I get this all taken care of. That's an important thing, because when I tried mounting this with Velcro, it would do this while you're riding. I didn't like that at all. Well, unfortunately for today, the rain has turned to snow. I thought it wouldn't, but we're kind of stuck. Now, what I always do, and this is just a good tip if you're incompetent like I am with electricity, is every step of the way, plug in the battery and make sure you haven't lost the connection. Because what happens, and it's usually this connection right here that's very delicate. And I've learned over the years, again, I'm going to pass this tip on. This is not an ordinary telephone wire. I don't know what's different. The ends are different in some way. It looks like a telephone wire, but when you go to use a telephone wire, it doesn't work. You got to get the wire from Valentine, or I did anyway. But that shows you how incompetent I really am. But once you get it all sorted out, obviously you can move it from bike to bike, and if you only have one bike, you can mount it permanently to the bike. Now, I'm just assuming, and maybe I'm wrong, that these are going to be metric bolts. Yes, they are. Let's see, there's nothing special about them, is there? I don't know. If there is, we'll have to go buy the wrench. This little piece would have protected the bolt heads. It will save this. Maybe we could use this in our part of our project. But you can see there's, let's just see. Yeah, they look like little Allen bolts. Now, what I'm hoping is that this whole unit is going to come apart as one piece, one unit, because it's got a locking ring. See, this is one you can actually lock, so nobody can open it or whatever. And let's see, with 4 bolts. So let's see if we can get this off without disturbing where all these little springs are and everything. And I hope it's going to be my lucky day. So what I did, I took one screw out, and they come out, of course. A 440 wrench works too, as well as whatever the other size is. I'm not sure what size. The bolts have the nuts built in, but I didn't want this unit with all the springs and everything to come apart when I pull it apart. So what I'm going to do as a safety thing is try to hold it together that way as I take the screws out. I don't know for sure if this is necessary, but this is the kind of thing when you do it the first time. See, what I would hate to have happen is when I take this apart, there's 10 springs in there or something. I don't know. I don't want to know what's inside there. I just want to get it off and get it attached to that piece of aluminum with no drama. So this may be overkill. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. But I always would rather have overkill than, uh-oh, how do we do it now? We need a pet octopus. Yeah, see, that's going to come apart, but then this comes apart too. I don't like that. So let's just play it safe. Safe is always good, especially when you're not real sure about taking something apart. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to take the rest of it apart, but being careful not to let these two things come apart. And maybe it's not going to make any difference, but I don't want to find out the hard way. So I did manage to get this unbolted. There's 4 bolts that hold it together, and I don't want to let that tape go. I'm just afraid there's got to be springs in here or something. And what happens, a lot of times you take something like this apart, and it's not impossible to get it back together, because probably at the factory they have little tools and springs and people with little tiny fingers. But, you know, when you're not familiar with it, it's always best if you can just leave that as a unit, because this is the unit we need to work with. So the first thing I noticed, and it's going to be a little minor problem, not a real big problem, but we got to account for this. And let's just see if we can do that. It'll be as far down as that, as far as this. We got to take a little notch out of this. So that we can go around this, which is the lock. Now, I don't know that we even need that lock, but I don't use the lock. But now it's going down into the mechanism. So I got to make my pattern and then transpose that onto the aluminum. Now, a good tip is I always make this oversize when I'm going to have to cut a piece out. I've got it taped in place so I can move it around. I want to get it as centered as possible. And hopefully, well, this is the way it's going to work. I'll be able to take this over to the aluminum now, mark that out with tape, and then cut that on, and hopefully keep this whole piece intact. Let's hope that works out that way. We're going to find out. Okay, now we can transpose that off of the cardboard where we made the adjustments. And of course, what I always do is make it oversized and then just use tape. If you use the tape to get a little bit nicer fit, otherwise you spend all day shaving it and cutting it. And the easiest way to do this is with a step drill. It doesn't catch any aluminum and want to pull apart out of your hand as much. And a step drill on a low speed. This will give me some nice corners to work with. I don't have to deal with getting the corners all. Now the holes are big enough that I can run the jigsaw blade through there and just go and connect the dots. And that'll give me a nice edge to the radius, which I can clean up with a Dremel tool. I want that to be a reasonably accurate thing that's going to let that lock show through. And I want that thing, that unit with the little fingers, and I want it centered on this as much as possible. So as this project evolved, I realized I need a square little notch just to allow for that lock to sit up. I've had this jigsaw for so long, I bet it's gone through 1,000 blades, and it still does a pretty decent job. But this is the whole thing, is to get it roughed out. Now I'll fine tune this by hand with a sanding stick. Now, the combination of a sanding stick, aka a nail file, and or the Dremel tool, just to get everything radius and no sharp edges, because this is going to, this is going to be a visible part of the project. So, but even if it wasn't, I want it to be workmanlike and look like, well, like we care about. Hey, so that worked out just about as good as I could have expected, and it's a real good fit. Now I can line up the little mechanism that has to go in here and drill the 4 holes. And the fit really worked out well. Now I want to just make sure I get this as centered as much as I can and carefully mark the holes before I drill them. Now once that's attached, then I can take that tape off the unit, and once this is permanently attached, we can figure out how we're going to arrange this. Now what we're going to try to do, and this is a really good trick, when we want to line up these 4 holes, and I don't want to make them way bigger than they have to be, of course, this is a really good trick, and it's a trick from model, well, I use it many times in model airplanes. You get 1 hole spotted accurately. We're going to line that edge up and spot this 1 hole, and then instead of marking all the other holes, I'm going to put a bolt in there. That's going to hold this in place. Believe me, this is a trick. If you were to just lay out these 4 holes on a tape and go drill them, it's almost guaranteed one wouldn't line up. But if you use this the way I said, drill one hole, put a bolt in, then go to the drill press and drill the other 3. That is such a good trick. Now with that one bolt in place, this now just becomes a drill guide, and actually it's a really good thing. When you really want to have it super precision, and I do, I'll drill this hole next. Make sure everything's lined up, just then that part is solid, see, because now I can still move it. And then when I'm real happy, drill the last 2. Again, using this for a drill guide, that is such a really good tip. And when you do it this way, almost guaranteed every time you do it, those bolts are just going to slide in and out. You'll never have to make the holes any bigger to get them to line up. It's a really good. So now we have 2 of these in place. We're ready to drill. Again, using this for a drill guide. This can't move side to side. And when we're done, that should really be a nice precision job. The first time you use this method and the bolts go in and out beautifully, I'm sure you'll be very happy. That has worked well for me for many years. So now I've got all 4 of the bolts in, and I still have, the mechanism works perfectly. I haven't taken the blue tape off yet. I'll take that before I install it. But I want to go out to the garage and make sure there's no interference on anything before I turn this over, and then figure out how I want to lay out the box and the radar detector. Oh, that mounted up nice. No interference. No interference on anything. I'm not so sure I couldn't have gotten rid of this as a last resort, but the only problem with getting rid of this, there is a problem, is then I can't lock it. But I can't lock it anyway. This metal is in the way, but anyway, that was the goal today, was to get that done, and we did. Now I'm just going to lay this out because we're coming up on the end of the day, and it's really snowing out there. I've got to get my grandson from school, and usually when he's here, from that point in the day on, not a lot gets done on motorcycling. Now what I did, I figured as long as I'm out here and I got a few minutes, I'd see, this is what I knew was going to happen. If you don't check everything, this is going to be an interference here. See the interference? Just that dead lock. So I'm going to have to cut some of that material away. I'll keep that in mind. I don't know if the other side is an interference. Yeah, it is. So I'll keep in mind that these corners could be something that we can get rid of. And, well, I got to do that to each motorcycle here, because if I don't, it's going to come back to bite me. Okay, on the R1, no clearance issue at all, but I'm going to check every bike out here. I don't want to get caught. And I know even taking a little bit of that off, so what it's going to tell me is get the stuff to get back as far as possible, because some of the bikes, the gas cap is forward. So it'll be to my advantage to have the stuff further back. And the FZR, I thought might be a problem. Not a problem at all. We're not even close. And the last one is going to be, because I got to see if anything's going to be changed on the 750. The Suzuki and the RD, I don't have a way of mounting that cap mount, so I'm kind of limited. So no clearance issue on this. It's really only the 650 that's a problem. But what it's going to tell me is keep this to the back. Get the box as far back as possible, and maybe just put the screamer up front. I don't know, but it's worth it doing all these clearance things before we go to the next step. See, what you find out is, like, here's a good example. The gas caps are in different spots on different bikes, and on this bike there's no clearance. It's plenty of room, but on this bike the gas tank's all the way up, the gas cap's all the way up forward. And unfortunately, I've thought of it for a long time, there's really no realistic way other than a magnetic tank bag to mount it to the GS. And so, and same thing with the RD. So once in a while, you just have to cut your losses, and this is going to be one of those times. Yeah, the snow's building up, and we don't let Miles walk home from school on days when it's snowing. We're going to go get him. So realistically, the last thing we're going to be able to get done today. This part worked out fine. I was real happy with this. Now, to cure this corner issue, I could move this some anyway. But I don't think I have to do that. And here's the reason why. I checked the fit of this box, and the box will obviously, that'll fit right there. I need to be able to mount the screamer somewhere, that looks like it'll mount right up there without a problem. And then I could cut the front of this back, and it looks like, in just the best of all worlds, it looks like this could be, I don't know, we want to put it in the middle, off to the side. This is variable. This can go wherever, because it's going to have wires attached to it. And that's going to be our project tomorrow, to take care of business here. That looks like, I'm very shocked. I think that's going to work out better than I ever thought. I'm actually pretty impressed the way it worked out. And now the other choice is, and maybe I'll even do this before I go any further. No, I can't, because see what's going to happen. I'm going to hit that. If I get the bigger box is going to be a problem. I'm going to have to learn to live with this. So now the other issue is, and I'll have to figure this out. This will be a good job for tomorrow. How to get all that in there. Get some kind of an exit hole to where we want the wires to go. But I think it's all pretty cut and dry. From this point on, I think it's all doable. There's no part of this now that I think is not going to work. But I did think of one thing I could do here. While I have this apart, I'm going to take it apart again. I actually, the way this worked out, I can trim these corners off right now, and that'll just make that a little bit easier. As long as I have a little bit of time here. Getting rid of those corners, that'll give me the clearance, and I can do that test fit to make sure that clearance is right, because this won't be a problem then. That'll be up in the front, and this will fit in the back, and all the guts will go inside. And that'll be a whole nother job for tomorrow, and then of course we'll test it and make sure everything's working just the way we want. Now there's a lot of give and take on this, and I think we'll take more than we need off, because I'm going to take the whole thing apart right now and take care of this. Like getting rid of those corners is the whole thing. That's going to be fine. And one final little test, I made a little pattern of how much I'm cutting off. That's equal. And I want to make sure I'm not getting too close to the base here. Got the jigsaw, trim that up, and again, this went way better than I thought it would. And I'm at the point now doing the other part. It's like a 2-day job. It's like when you do construction work. The first part of the job, get the materials where you need them. Second part of the job, do the job. This was the hard part. This was the part I was worrying if everything was going to fit and line up and everything, and I didn't know about that. That was giving me some cause for thinking about it. But anyway, it's not going to be a problem. Everything's going to fit. Even the screamer is going to fit. So at this point, I'm happy the way this part is playing out. Actually, it's Mark Morgan's sign that we're using. We didn't even have to buy a piece of material. And I wanted to get all the edges dressed off. I wanted to get it as workmanlike as possible. I don't know if I'm going to paint this black or if I'm going to leave it this color, or I do have some other choices here, but I wanted to get it as workmanlike as possible by the end of the day. So I'm trying to think of the final details here before I actually go to the next step on this. And let me take all this stuff out for now. This is going to consume this amount of real estate here, and so I have that. But here's the thing. Now I got to put this screamer somewhere, but I also want to be able to open this. These are the kind of little things you think, oh yeah, but if you get them wrong, boy, it bites you. Well, let's see if I had this off to one side. Yeah, I can open that up. I had it in the middle. Okay, so I can do this no matter what. That's good. That's good. Now the last little thing, and I can do it right now. I've got about 10 minutes left in this day. I can mount up the screamer and get that mounted. Now I need to drill 2 holes, and I'm going to have to tap them because I can't have, what's going to happen, I can't have the bolts coming out the back. So I'm going to have to drill carefully and get 2, well, I guess 440s would do it. Yeah. So I got the holes marked accurately, got the drill, the tap, got that all done. That was an extra little free bonus thing today, getting that done. So this is drilled and tapped. That's mounted. Now mounting up the box will be the step we'll start with tomorrow, and the electronics. Now I got to admit, I didn't think I'd get this all done in one day and have this mounted. Got to trim the screws off with a cut-off wheel, but I'm going to have to put screws to hold the box to this. So I don't know, for a snowy day, we got a big bite out of this project. And I think it's going to work out better than I ever thought. Now I didn't know about, and I still have the choice of putting that bigger box on. I'll just have to put, see the way this works now, I can put a plate on top of this plate. I don't have to make the whole plate all over. I could make a bigger plate, just put a couple of screws in it. But anyway, it's all going to evolve. This is the way I've always done all of these kind of things that you see. I don't know what this shape was like until I went out to the garage and moved the handlebars on the bike. I didn't realize how much further forward and backward some of these gas caps are. Vlad had a problem with one of his bikes. I remember he put a tank bag on and it was like in a wrong spot or something. I don't remember. It made me aware of that tank bag is a very convenient thing, but when it gets a little big, another thing it does is when you really want to lay on the front of the bike in a really hard turn, it kind of restricts you. This is not going to restrict me at all. So we'll see where it all goes. It's an ongoing project. We're going to pick it up tomorrow. Now, it seems like to a lot of people, I'm sure, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of, and that radar detector, by the time you bit the screamer, is almost $600. So anyway, and it might have gone up since the time I bought it. But you think of what that does for you in terms of giving you some security when you're riding it. You're not constantly looking over your shoulder to see if the helicopters are chasing you. Anyway, another thing, all the pictures we've taken now since we were out on the road and the ones we shot for the t-shirt project that's coming up very soon, I wanted to look back and forth where I have the tank bag on and no tank bag. Well, this tank bag is going to be a little smaller, and it's something I'm perfectly willing to do without, because I can go to a bike show or something and just take it off. And when you're riding the bike, believe it or not, you don't even see it. It's kind of innocuous. But obviously a smaller tank bag would probably be a little bit nicer to look at. But there's a big thing. And I didn't think of it until right now. How much better is the video going to be? Because you'll be able to see the instruments. Well, see, you normally, the person, you can see them when you ride the bike, but I didn't give this a lot of thought. And one of the things about this bike, when you sit on it and you look forward, it's got it's different than when you have a bike where you're sitting behind a fairing. I don't know if it's better or worse. For me, it's just great. I love it. I love the feel, the look, the way the seat is. Again, I always try to emphasize, it's a very inexpensive bike. There's bikes that really cost twice the price that give you the same performance. But this bike, it fits me. And I don't know how to describe that. And I have really enjoyed every minute of it. And I know my friends get sick of me hearing and say that. And the fact that I've been able to make it unique and make it my own over this winter. And we do have a couple details. Tomorrow we're going to finish that tank bag, that whole thing up, and hopefully have the other little parts that we want to do finished. I'm excited about it because it's been a really fun winter project. So we do try to post up a video every day. Tomorrow I am excited to hopefully get this finished tomorrow, get it mounted on a bike. Not going to ride because the snow built up quite a bit. I'll probably be shoveling tomorrow. But I do try to post up a video almost every day, keep in touch with my friends. And the people that have been leaving comments on the YouTube channel that I'm going to be answering on the question and answer videos every so often, I've got about 6 questions already. So it looks like that's a pretty popular thing. And let's be realistic, a month from now we're going to be riding pretty much every one of these bikes almost every day. And basically, that's the whole reason for doing this. The whole reason for being involved in motorcycling is just to ride the wheels off these bikes. And thanks so much for watching.